Ooh. One thing I've learned for the last couple of, let's say spring, I think we're technically in spring now, is that my mood tends to vary with the celandine. As you've just seen, the celandine are quite closed today. I know. Quite closed today, and there is a bit of sunshine now and then, but it is generally a duller day, shall we call it. It's grey. And the celandine needs sunshine as I need sunshine. It's doing its best, but it hasn't. It's doing its best, but it should put its heart into it. Yeah, I noticed yesterday everybody was a bit brighter, and the supermarkets weren't quite as full as they usually are. Reason for that, I suppose, people prefer to be outside. You know, incarcerated by foul weather for such a long time, and we've had 4 days of good weather, and now it's we're going to go downhill back into very cold weather and probably a bit of rain. Why not? It's normal. Also, there's a little cat around here. She's elderly. I think she's the sister of my old cat, Shadow. They look similar. I think all cats in this area look similar. They're black with white medallions, shall we say, on their chest. They're all very, very similar, the faces and everything. She's old, she's very poorly, and I just can't get near her. And also, one thing I've realised is with elderly cats that are in pain, they can be dangerous. And also I've noticed that next door's cats tend to avoid her. They will stop in their tracks and go way out of their way to avoid her. I can't get hold of her. All I can do is give her food, which is the second best medicine now, I think. But she eats a lot, which probably means she needs worming. That's an adventure. But I think I'll try and starve her for half a day, and then I'll put some stuff in her food to see what she does. But it is sad. It's sad also because cats are perfect for affection. They return affection. They invest in you and you invest in them. Can't do that with this cat, and that affection is important because there's an experiment I remember years ago where they took a baby monkey away from its mother, which is a bugger of a thing to do, nasty buggers, but it was in the 70s, I think, which is when the ethics committee in the United States, where they carry out these daft psychological experiments, you know, they're allowed to do them. The other one is the Zimbardo Harvard prison experiment. I'll tell you about that one in a moment, and it's very relevant to what's going on. I'm going to go back down, got the washing machine on. Solar panels are working a bit better in this weather than in bright sunshine. It's curious. So anyway, what they did, they took this monkey away from its mum and put it in a cage. And on one side of the cage they put food, and on the other side of the cage they put a bit of fur. And the little monkey spent most of his or her time hugging the fur. Affection is such an important part of human contact as well, but especially with animals, the formative years in particular, formative weeks probably, for most animals. I just can't get near her. I wonder, I've never seen her with a tail up, you know, a bit of joy. And I can't get near her, and it worries me. But all I can do is keep giving her food, and that's all I can do. And it worries me, especially in cold nights, horrible weather. She'll disappear for a while, so she's got shelter somewhere. But she keeps wandering up and down at the moment, and I make sure there's food every time for her at a designated spot, which if I go near, she won't go near. So that's the relationship. The other experiment, I tell you, a friend of mine was emptying a father's house, a parent's house, and they had a library in which they had, there must be about 40 must be about 40, Encyclopedia Britannica, you know, the original Google. I've referred to it, I've had a look at it a couple of times, but that's about it. And in there somewhere must be Zimbardo's Harvard experiment of 74, I'm not sure, in which I think it was a handful of people were taken, they'd agreed to the experiment, as I said, very unethical. Maybe just change. Bit of cramp. Very unethical. What they did was 5 people were designated as prisoners, and they were taken in the middle of the night, and they were put in cells and they were given a smock. That's all they had. And another 5 or 6 individuals were given black uniforms and what do you call those, reflective glasses, so nobody could see their eyes. It was an experiment to see how people would deal with this situation. They expected a positive outcome, that good would prevail, and they would achieve an equilibrium of mutual sort of respect, I suppose. The experiment was supposed to run, sorry about that, about 11 days, I think, and it collapsed on the morning of the 3rd. The reason for that was that, dressed as criminals in a smock only and put in cells, the psychology of those people collapsed, and they became subservient, they became enfeebled by the process. And those people who were in black uniforms with the mirror shades, they became monsters. The police, the policing group, became tyrannical. Quite simply because behind those shades they could be who they really wanted to be. And I'm thinking about the same in relation to ICE. They've given uniforms, black uniforms and shades to people, and they have become who they are on the inside. I suppose a simple rule would be anybody who wants to join ICE should not be allowed to join ICE, and they should not wear shades. We're strange people. I think that experiment and what's going on in America with ICE at the moment reflects that more than anything. We are monsters inside, and it's only the fact that we live in organised cultures according to social norms that we avoid this kind of behaviour in general, sort of a mutual investment. I'll look that up in the encyclopedias and just see what else is going on there relative to that. Yeah, that's it. The sun's trying to come through, but it hasn't got a hope. It's milky sunshine, and my mood, even though I'm mindful of mood being nothing more than a psychological filter one employs to look at the world, a cognitive filter as it were, it can be powerful, and mindful of that, and mindful that I can equally put another thought in place instead of almost being despairing at the loss of sunshine. I could focus entirely on the positive side of things. I'll have to make a list, see if it works. Anyway, that's it. We're about to go downhill again, and being a mindful sort of guy, it occasionally defeats me. Probably it's age. I'm going to the dogs, and also I worry about the little cat, vulnerable little thing, and I wonder if I wear shades whether I would be as caring for the animal, or even for friends. I've had people do that before. I don't get intimidated, so there we are. But it was an attempt at intimidation by somebody I knew quite well. So I just stared at him. And I just did the tone of my voice. It worked. But you can't do it if there's a half a dozen of them, I suppose. Right, maybe a bit of sunshine. Let's see. That's the sky. And the other thing, briefly, just before I go, is that yesterday the trees were full of hope. And that's, you know, they were aspiring to become floribundant and verdant with spring. And yet today they've gone back to being bleak. To think my way out of it. Yeah. So what I'm going to do in a short while is make myself a sandwich. I got up early this morning. What I did was I studied a bit of French. I have a tutorial tomorrow morning where I'll once again vandalise the French language. And then in the meantime, what I do, I multitask, because it is possible to do a lot of work studying, learning a language, destroying it, and also make bread at the same time. It only takes about 15 minutes to make bread, really, of active engagement. After that, you just let the yeast do its job. So I've got myself a lovely little bloomer, and I'll make myself a sandwich later. Here we go. And here, oh, summer opening. Let's celebrate this one. Let's celebrate this one. There, I'm a tough guy. Scared of bumblebee.